Morning. Point of reflection today about how your happiness or your well being is dependent on the social cues or feedback you get from other people. Um, I think we all kind of have this ingrained feeling that we want to please and we want to be liked. And that's quite normal. I think if you think about our childhood, we're often told, our reward system is often based on pleasing our parents or our caregivers. So, for example, if you do something that people want you to do, then you get the pat on the back, and if you do something that people told you not to do or they don't want you to do, then you get punishment, right? So, because of this, I think we are often brought up by thinking that the way we behave towards other people, and more importantly, the way they then behave towards us, is an absolute crucial thing. And you can see the value of that because ultimately, certainly society will want to behave in a way which is, polite to others and so on and so forth. And we understand that, and I think part of living in a communal space is being thoughtful of others and of others' feelings, and there's no problem with that. But it also implies the idea of condition. When we grow up, there's often the case that if we derive our sense of self worth from conditional behavior, meaning that if we do what our parents want, then we get our needs met. Essentially, we get praise and we get an emotional sort of charge. And equally, if we don't do what our parents want, then we get punished and we have an emotional discharge, essentially being depleted, deflated, and our self worth suffers because of it. So often, our sense of acceptance, of self acceptance, is conditional to the way that other people react to us. And again, I'm not talking about being a social human being where you are considerate towards others in a public space. I'm talking about to what extent our self acceptance, our sense, sorry, of self acceptance, our sense of self compassion, self worth, comes from the way others behave towards us. And I think there's some danger in this, and I think a lot of parenting could potentially use with the idea of unconditional positive regard, where you can be quote unquote naughty as a child or do something that your parents don't approve of, but your sense of being loved and accepted and valued doesn't change because you've done something quote unquote bad. So I think that there's an element of being brought up to realize that you are loved and cared for and appreciated regardless of what you behave. And most people that are emotionally mature that I've met have this sense that yes, they may do stupid things, yes, they could improve in certain areas of their lives, yes, they make mistakes and all the rest of it. Nobody's perfect, but the sense of self-worth isn't necessarily affected by this condition. And sometimes, and this is something that I want you to reflect on, how many times in your life have you done something because it's sort of expected of you or because you really wanted to? And how many times were you really in a position where you wanted to do something that you knew was right, your moral compass told you was right, but maybe you didn't because of various other social circumstances or other people's opinions, right? And I think there's a fine line between being a sociable human being with respect for others and being somebody whose value is conditioned to the way other people react to you. And I think this is part of the problem we have with mob rule. This is part of the problem where we have now, where to feel included, to feel accepted, to feel perhaps part of the current belief system, we potentially do things where we don't necessarily believe in them so much, but we feel that in order to be accepted, we do these things. Right. So I think my point today is really about whether you ever reflected on your role of self-worth and if you ever felt self-compassion, and to what extent this idea of worth is conditioned to the way others looked at you. If everybody in the room kicked a puppy, for example, and would you feel compelled to do the same? And would you say no? What would the pressure on you be? Would you think that other people truly judged you if you didn't have the guts to kick a puppy, or you didn't have the moral sense and the logical sense to see why it was sensible to kick a puppy in that moment in time, right? Now, this is an extreme example that you might think of course I wouldn't kick a puppy. But what about obedience to social norms? What about if that instead of that puppy would be to deny service to somebody because of their sexuality or religion or whatever? You think, well, of course I wouldn't do that. But wouldn't you? If everybody in your town, all the shops in your town, would not serve gay people because they're gay, would you then still be okay with serving them? And I hope you would, but the point is, would you? This pressure of having value and worth and self-esteem and morals conditioned by what the reaction of others are. To what extent we will program to feel that way? To what extent we would say, no, no, I wouldn't. I would certainly stand for what I believe in. But would you? And would that be an easy thing to do? So I'll leave you with this thought today. And again, it's about what do you think the conditions are for your worth? Do you think you are worthy unconditionally? And because you potentially brought up with feeling that, yes, you may do bad things, but you have value nevertheless? Or is your belief system or belief in yourself conditioned to how others react? I think that's an interesting point to consider. Have a good day and a good weekend.